Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Digital Dive, where we take a deep dive into digital assets. My name is Eric, and in today's video, we're going to be sitting down with Ben Putley, Neil Bruce, and Adam Chorley of ALKIMI, the world's first decentralized advertising exchange. We're going to be talking about how ALKIMI aims to solve problems in the advertising world, which cost billions of dollars, while also restoring the intended value exchange on the internet, where users are no longer a product, publishers are no longer behest to Facebook and Google, and where advertisers can deliver their message with value. We're also going to be discussing the many different functions of the ads token and how just by holding the ads token, you are getting paid to help save the internet. So stick around and figure out how you can help save the internet with ads. All right, gentlemen, welcome to the Digital Dive podcast. I'm sitting here with the team from ALKIMI. How's everyone doing today?
Very well. Very excited to be here with the man himself.
Oh, yeah. You guys have had an incredible response from the community on the announcement of the ALKIMI exchange. So I'm absolutely pleased to have you guys on here. This is really great. I've, as you know, looked pretty extensively into your project. And as someone who has done digital advertising myself, I am super excited for what you guys have put together. It really is remarkable. And I'm hoping that by the end of this video, for someone who may not know anything about ALKIMI, be able to walk away with this and truly understand the magnitude of the project and what you guys are bringing into the market. So let's do some team introductions here.
Well, that were very kind words. Thank you. And we have also been blown away by the response from the community as well. I think it's true that as we've kind of been launched into the Constellation community, as it were, it really is one of the best in crypto. I know it's said a lot, but yeah, we've definitely experienced that.
Right.
So I'm Ben, I'm the CEO and co-founder. I've worked in digital advertising for my entire career. More recently, I was in influencer marketing, but prior to that, I sold software to the biggest publishers in the world. And that's actually how I met Chorley and Neil. I was the middleman. I was the ad tech partner in the middle that sold to both of them. And it's kind of led us here today to where we are, launching the centralized ad exchange that will fundamentally change the way that we all on this call view ads, but not just that, the way that an advertiser sells an ad, buys an ad rather, and the way that a publisher sells an ad. So it's going to be completely different as we get this exchange into the hands of our users, ads tokens holders, to publishers, to advertisers, the whole shebang.
Right, absolutely. And I think the whole shebang is really, you're not just improving the ad world for the publisher or the advertiser, but really the user experience of the person viewing the ads. And I know we're going to talk about all of that a lot later, but I really, again, think it's incredible. So awesome. Who we got? Neil?
Yeah, do you want to go next, Neil?
Let's hear it.
I will go next. Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Neil. I'm also on mute because I have a toddler gallivanting around. So I'm going to try and keep him out of the way. But yeah, I'm Neil, co-founder and CCO. As Ben said, we all kind of met in different parts of the advertising ecosystem. And my part, I was on the buy side. So I worked predominantly for big network advertising agencies, media agencies. And most recently, I worked for an agency called Mindshare, which is the world's second largest media agency, where I was head of mobile and head of digital innovation. So I was in charge of a lot of these new projects that are coming out, and blockchain projects were some of the projects that we were testing. And we were responsible for a 9-figure advertising budget every year. And I could see the worth of blockchain when I was working in the agency side. And then obviously talking to Ben and Chorley, this opportunity was presented, and just so excited about what it can do to change the internet forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think it's also quite interesting. Blockchain kind of went from just payments to store of value to now providing solutions for businesses in order to save them time, money, and energy, which is where the real future of the space is going to shine. So I agree. That is really, really awesome. Chorley.
Yeah, I'm Chorley. I'm the COO. So I started kind of being interested in blockchain technology and Bitcoin especially, and that all started from trading, and that was about kind of 5 years ago now. So all the way through, I was kind of learning more about blockchains and how businesses can use them. And all that time I was working at Condé Nast, so a real legacy publisher where I was working in programmatic advertising. And for them, that was very like new at the time. So kind of really experienced how a sort of big old company like that deals with new technology, and what that kind of means for them and how quickly they have to learn how to use it and all that kind of thing, where it's not their sort of traditional business, and yet they're sort of forced to work in it. And that's, you know, something that I feel that like blockchain technology really has the ability to also change, because these companies have just been taken to task by, you know, people like Google because they've got the technology, and they make it kind of easy enough to use, and for that there is a high cost. And so we want to kind of return that to them, and that's the promise of blockchain, and decentralization has always been that. So the whole time that I've kind of been training and learning about it and kind of working in the industry, finally the opportunity arrived with Constellation's network that's so quick and actually able to sort of host an exchange in a way that really hasn't been possible before. And for us, that was that kind of moment where it kind of all fits together, and it all seemed like a purpose, and all working towards that end goal. So yeah, it's been really exciting, and yeah, we've been like so lucky to have Constellation on board as well, because they've been really banging the drum for us as well, making sure that everybody knows about us, and yeah, really helping us out on a day-to-day basis as well. So it's been great.
Yeah, best community in crypto by far. So you're definitely a crypto veteran. You know, 5 years, you know, in relatively speaking is a small time frame, but in crypto, I mean, you're a real veteran in the game there, going back.
Yeah, got all the bruises to prove it as well. I think it's that yeah, riding out a bear market after yeah, it was kind of born in summer and then yeah, lived through the winter, so it was pretty hard.
Yeah, those crypto winters are painful.
Yeah.
Well, they're a good time to learn, I think, and that's I got onto Constellation from Chorley probably in, I guess, 2018, and I was aware of things like decentralized finance, and kind of I was trading some crypto at this point. But as I really jumped into what Constellation were doing, I was struck by, really for me, the ability to scale transactions horizontally. That's kind of something that's virtually unheard of, right? And Troy and I would sit with Neil and think, what can we do? What do we know? What do we work in that applies to that could be improved by horizontal scalability? And it was really when the Lattice exchange was announced we were like, holy shit! If you change cryptocurrencies for publishers and advertisers on either side, there's really no difference to what Lattice is doing, and then you can drag and drop that literally into this market that's worth $340 billion. And we've spoken about this, but we really want to hammer this home, is that we're viewing the digital advertising market as a liquidity pool, $340 billion per year liquidity pool, which you, as an ads token holder, has access to by providing utility for people that use the internet every single day. So yourselves, users, publishers who create the content, advertisers who ultimately pay for that content to exist, the key three stakeholders in this intended value exchange of the internet, if you will.
Yeah, that is really incredible. I mean, viewing the market as a global liquidity pool, because in essence that is what it is. And what you guys are totally creating the platform for with Alkimi. So that's kind of, I'm assuming, how the vision for Alkimi kind of came about, got introduced to Constellation. And I would agree with you, as someone who's looked at various, you know, layer one crypto projects, and then when you hear about a layer zero and how completely interoperable it is, you're just like, where did this thing come from and why haven't I heard about it? So for your team to be, you know, kind of the early adopters, and I believe the Project A #1 on Constellation is huge, and it speaks to the magnitude of your project being the first project on the Constellation network here. So I think that's really cool to kind of hear how that evolved.
Yeah. And I think what now I've only really just thought of this now, but what we saw if the internet was like a V1 blockchain, right? Like connecting servers in a way you never could do before, the ad tech products that allow the monetization of this blockchain are not too dissimilar to all of the products you see today, right? Which is another centralized exchange. We always joke and say another noun swap, which one I think of next, I'm not sure, but these kind of products that are just solving issues for people in that particular sector. And we've said that the ad tech world is kind of stuck together with bubblegum and pins, and there's a lot of amazing solutions that are existing, layer 1, layer 2 solutions, but really to me that's very similar. It does, I can see that path because we've kind of trodden it. And when we were developing ad tech solutions where you created a new ad format, and that really is just like a shard from a blockchain or whatever it may be. So it's a path well trodden, and we've arrived at this idea of an L0 solution, which again is bringing on this amazing new liquidity pool, accessed by the ads token. And I was like, shit, this is definitely the path that needs to be trodden, right? Like Binance arguably is like a Facebook type platform, right? Like a huge centralized exchange making loads of money from fees and opaque margins you maybe don't quite understand. It's like there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn between the two, which again, when we found Constellation and we're fortunate enough to have our project taken into the incubator they've started, we were just blown away. I mean, it's amazing that we get to do this every day. It's pretty cool to talk about how you could change the internet, which is ubiquitous, right? Everybody right now, we're on the internet. So it's like, particularly after the last 18 months when you sat inside. So yeah, the internet is huge, and we have a real good chance to turn it around and protect it for the future.
Absolutely, which is something that we, certainly need as we grow larger and larger, and kind of give more and more power to some of these centralized institutions, if you will, that maybe may not always have our best interests or kind of sell our data around. So being able to secure that, and like your team has said multiple times, return the intended value exchange back to the user on the internet is really huge, because you're not just providing a platform for advertisers and publishers, but really for the individual on the internet, which I think everyone can get on board with. So that's awesome. And just for the new listener who may not know anything previously about Alkimi, real quick, what is the Alkimi exchange?
So essentially, we are bringing the best of DeFi. So immutable records of data, complete transparency, instant reconciliation. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but this global liquidity pools, this trustless network where everyone can kind of behave with everyone else, and looking at bringing that to ads. So using that to, if you're an advertiser, access audience on particular publishers' websites. If you're a publisher, selling that inventory to those advertisers, and then as a user, viewing those ads online. So essentially recreating the centralized system in a decentralized version with all the benefits that brings by bringing it onto the blockchain. And then kind of having this generative economic model that allows everyone to win that's involved, rather than just one person at the top that's kind of pulling the levers and controlling everything that's going on. So we really want to, as I say, bring all of the benefits of a decentralized world, a lot of what's made DeFi so popular and so great, to an enormous liquidity pool, and create a decentralized ad exchange so people can buy and sell ads, users can view content, and just usher in a new way of kind of trading ads.
Right, a new paradigm of advertising, really. And so one of the things that I learned when you did your hypergraph hour with Constellation were some of the common problems about advertising in general, such as fraud. You guys displayed some statistics that were mind-blowing to me. Like, I knew, like, me and the advertising that I've done, I knew, I've had my issues with it, and it can be quite costly, and you don't get access to all the right data analytics that you may want to see. But you guys laid out some really crazy things about, like, supply chain problems that I wasn't even aware of, and the fraud. So if you guys want to speak on that, I think that would really clue the viewer in on just how massive of a problem you would be fixing by, working with Alkimi Exchange.
I jump in here.
Go ahead, Neil.
This is my pet thing.
You is coming.
There are a couple of things here. Like first of all, Charlie always mocks me about the fact that I'm obsessed with the fact that ad fraud is the second biggest and soon to be biggest contributor to global organized crime in terms of revenue. The scale of it is absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. That's by the by. I will park that now, Chor. I won't talk about that anymore. But
I love how you sort of managed to speak about it by saying you weren't going to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Done. In terms of my day-to-day role, when I was working at Mindshare and I was looking after, like I say, like 9-figure investment, we were very cognizant of the fact that when we were investing this money on behalf of our clients, by the time it actually reached the publisher and therefore the end consumer, half of that revenue was gone. And that's gone through a load of different levers, everything from arbitrage through to kind of viewability problems, fraudulent activity, everything in this what we call the Lumascape, which is this chart of suppliers between the advertiser and the person seeing the ad. And it's bananas. And this figure of it's 49 cents of every dollar isn't a figure that we have had to work hard to go and find. It is out there. The industry is absolutely aware of this. Like everyone in advertising knows that this is an issue. Right. It's been an unfixable issue, and it's ridiculous, right? So you have an advert that appears below the fold on a website, and so it's not viewable. No one can see it. So therefore, if you're paying for your ad to be seen and it can't be seen, that's ridiculous. So what do? You create a technology that is designed to measure whether an ad's viewable or not. But all that's doing is just laddering up this ad tech tax that sits between, it's another area, and no wonder we're up to 50% because there are new technologies that are being onboarded to sort out the legacy problems that already exist, and it's a fucking mess. And it honestly, and when I was at Mindshare, there a large automotive manufacturer who are one of our clients. There was a front page article on the front page of the Times newspaper, basically saying that this client's ads were basically funding ISIS. Oh, and we had to, and because of that, we had to then go and unpick all of the media buys that we were doing. And in that process of unpicking the media buys we were doing, we realized that we had this ridiculous circular route on our media plan where you had people who were on plan, who also another partner was buying them indirectly. And then you realize these layers of arbitrage and you're not seeing anything in a transparent fashion. Right. And it's just a mess. Just an absolute mess. Yeah.
Well, and that can't exist anymore. Like as soon as you put stuff onto a blockchain, it's there, everyone can see it, you can't hide anymore. So that immediately solves that problem. And like there's a lot of talk of supply path optimization. And I would say if you're an advertiser or publisher and you use the ALKIMI exchange, your supply path is now optimized. You can put that to bed because every time you log in, you can see exactly where your ad went, to whom, who bought it, where was it shown, for how long. So you have a complete picture of what's going on. And another one of the 10% that's lost is just through server discrepancies. And that's just accepted. So it give $340 billion a year, 10% of that is written off just for server discrepancies. So it's what, $34 billion you're talking about there, which is an insignificant amount of money, right? It's a lot of cash. Yeah. And again, with the blockchain, with the ALKIMI exchange, you then have an immutable record of data that has been instantly reconciled. So there's 10% back straight away. And that would significant differences. My career in advertising has been amazing, but there's always been this undercurrent of cost cutting, people kind of having to let staff go, being like, I've been made redundant in the past. It's something that happens because everyone is under such a tight squeeze on such short, tiny, small margins because so much is wasted. So by bringing just this 10% back in, that could retrain entire departments at every publisher you can think of, right? There's now more value being put into user experience on the websites, more value being put into the actual creative of the ad, more value being put into the time at which you spend on it. So it's just, we don't have kind of one kind of golden bullet for this. We solve a number of different issues, which when you add them all together, the sum of the parts become much greater than them as individuals, right? And you change the way that things are going to work. And we probably don't understand exactly where all this, and I think you said at the start that the time, which is a hugely qualitative resource, the like quality, again, very qualitative resource. And it's like, they will be impacted significantly by more time that you have now. I mean, Neil always talks about reconciliation week in an agency where 12 weeks of every year are spent matching Google Sheets to one another.
Aye.
And I think by the end of the week, you probably just say, God, it's good enough. Do you know, not to undermine your work, Neil, but I think it's the point where it just needs to be like, this is good.
Never did that.
So
Yeah,
that's
well,
what I have to do.
Well, just, I mean, if you said nothing more after those things you guys just said, the person who knows nothing about the advertising world can see very clearly that the model is unsustainable for growth, and it's almost completely broken. I mean, what does it say about an industry when 49% of the money is just basically thrown away, and 49% of your revenue is just thrown away, and it's acceptable, or 10% is just lost, and that's acceptable? And I think what I also love about something like what you guys are doing is it's an amazing fix, but it's not a difficult fix for a company to now work with you, which is one of the great things that is also made possible with Constellation, because they're very interoperable. And I think it says a lot about you guys for being, making the wise decision and working with them, because they'll be able to plug into some of these legacy systems a lot more easily than what some of these other networks will have challenges with.
Absolutely. It's, we were, and this kind of train of thought came from a lot of the conversations that Diggles was having around the work that he'd done with Moby, where they had to spend a lot of time just authoring a standard by which everyone could agree upon. And right. The cool part with the advertising world is that standard exists. That standard is used by virtually everyone that trades a digital ad. It is OpenRTB 2.5 through the state channel that we'll be running, which we call it affectionately called ALEX, which is ALKIMI Exchange, right? So we can take that on immediately, and then we're completely interoperable with the ways in which people trade right now. So like the barrier to entry now is nothing. And the benefits of this are immutable records of data, instant reconciliation, complete transparency. We've not even touched upon the potential applications of the future of what you could do with the state channels and the kind of evolution of what a smart contract is. It's like the more you jump into this, you're like, holy shit, there is just so much on the other side. It's like we kind of have had the red pill, as it were, and
right.
You're like, well, like, why would you do it? And everything else, all the old tech solutions just seem boring to me. Like we sat and spoke to an industry executive he wasn't so excited, but people were excited about rich media inside of a WhatsApp conversation as this new amazing ad format that I think the company got acquired for $750 million. And it's like the industry's looking here, and it does really feel like
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. We were able to get this God view and kind of, as I say, take all of the best aspects of DeFi, funnel that in through an ads token, and then kind of have that go out and solve a plethora of issues that exist right now.
Right. So as an advertiser, before I even decide to use the ALKIMI exchange, just by coming to the platform, I'm already saving time and money before I even run an ad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
Like you haven't changed any of your old systems. You're still buying it in the way that you used to. Second, you set your campaign up, it will be like the light switches on. There'll be like instantly reams of data. There will be transparency like you haven't seen before. You'll see where exactly the ad went, saw by whom and when. Like it's, again, I can keep repeating myself, you guys have to get me to shut up, but like it's just all of the great things, as we've said, about what the DeFi space has done. It's like we've applied it to advertising, and it's like, well, make your own conclusions about how great you think DeFi is, and then say, oh shit, advertising's doing that too.
Yeah, and it is a laundry list of benefits that are desperately needed in this space, clearly based on some of those figures that you guys have just communicated. So what are some of the features of the ads token itself? And as me, an investor, if I'm holding an ads token, what does that do for me?
So the ads token, it involves a lot of different things for the different participants in the network effectively. So if you're a publisher or like an agency, you can hold the ads token, and that allows you access to the exchange, and it allows you the ability to trade a certain amount of bandwidth on the exchange. But if you're a user, you have the ability to buy and hold an ads token, and then you can stake it. And what that allows you to do is you'll be staking towards these two pools that we're going to create. One's the access pool and the other is a bandwidth pool. And what's going to happen is those publishers and users who don't hold ads tokens are going to be able to borrow them from those pools. And what that means is if you're an ads token holder and you stake to those pools, you'll be rewarded for those being borrowed from you by those publishers and advertisers and agencies as well. So that will then return you rewards in the form of more ads tokens. And that they'll obviously be layer 0 later on, and those will be interoperable with pretty much anything else. So you can obviously then go and exchange those, or you can stake them again and obviously compound your returns. So that's what an ads token holder can do with an ads token. So they'll be allowed to stake it and earn rewards for that. So that essentially means if you're a user of the internet and you're also an ads token holder and staker, you're basically getting paid to use the internet, which we think is like pretty powerful way to look at it. And it allows people to access that value exchange in a way that just hasn't been possible before. I think the closest thing you might get is something like, you know, the Brave browser and BAT, but that means that you've got to kind of change your browsing habits and the way you use the internet. What we allow is basically to use the internet in the way that you always have done, but just have to buy some ads tokens and stake them, and you'll be rewarded for that.
That is incredible. And you know what, I know we're not in the business of necessarily comparing different projects, but you know, I thought with Brave, I think it's a lot more difficult to, exactly what you just said, navigate someone to a whole new browser, download it and change, you know, most people aren't going to get off of Chrome or Safari. That's just kind of how it is. It's easy. Why do anything different? But by doing what you guys are doing, you're kind of reversing it. So instead of a new platform, we're just going to go straight to providing you a better user experience through just holding these tokens. So I think that's incredible. And getting paid to use the internet, I pay to use the internet. I would love to have some form of return, someone throw me a bone here. So if I can get paid by just holding the token, and I see that's where a lot of the generative economics kind of play into it, by holding the token, staking the token, I'm getting rewards. Everyone who's going to that pool are able to use the tokens, and then collectively, you know, a rising sea lifts all boats. And everyone wins. You know, there's no loss across the board. Advertisers, publishers, users, you've basically provided a solution to the whole trifecta while saving people money, time, and improving their experience. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of this project, because one, it's desperately needed, but two, when you learn about it, you're like, duh, like this is just a incredible idea. And I don't see why there would be any reason why, whether a user, advertiser, or publisher wouldn't migrate to, why you would not migrate to something like this as a solution. I just don't, it's a no-brainer. I think it's largely a no-brainer.
And we've had some amazing conversations this week with big publishers just to whet their appetite. And we know we have product market fit. We've had a lot of conversations, but to keep having them and kind of keep uncovering a new application, because like ultimately what we're doing with this idea of kind of you taking more control over what you do online by holding an ads token, you're then part of this intended value exchange. That is kind of starting to make you think about your sovereignty of your data online, right? You're taking things back a little bit. And again, I'll give him the credit because this was Benjamin Diggles that said this, but the last 20 years on the internet have really been the greatest data leak we've ever seen. I mean, testament to my phone right now, like I get a lot of people pretending to be banks that are saying, you've got an account, you haven't opened, you need to unlock this money, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, that's come from my data being leaked online from big centralized platforms, kind of this one single point of failure, right? And by us kind of turning people on to this idea a little bit more, we'll be looking at like more of the decentralized ID solutions of the future. And we also speak to a lot of decentralized ID partners because we understand that if you or I has a pod of data that we hold and I allow a website to access that data, they have my consent, which then gets you around regulations like the GDPR. You then as an advertiser and a publisher can now sell intent-based data. You don't have to guess which websites I went on and who you think I might be and what you think I might like. I will tell you so you know. So you can now as an advertiser have a much better, more targeted, more effective message going to that individual because they're part of the joy. Like advertising exists forever, right? It's like little and often works very well. And I think unfortunately on the internet, it's a lot all the time. And that's why you might use an ad blocker or a VPN or just a way to kind of give you basically a PC a rest, because sometimes you go on a website and the fan starts whirring and it takes forever to load. And this is all from third-party JavaScripts that are using to deliver ads, which just leak, as we said, 10% is lost from data discrepancies, predominantly because of the JavaScripts that run it, right? So it's a huge problem I think we're tackling, but I say we're definitely the right team to do it, and we've definitely got the technology behind us that's going to make it feasible.
Right. And I think too, and this you outlined quite nicely in the white paper, was kind of the problem that a lot of advertisers are facing, which is, ad blockers, but they're having to increase the frequency of their ads because of these certain problems. So people like me, I go to a website, I'm getting a pop-up here, the whole thing is like an old school newspaper in my face where like this one article I wanted to read and everything else around it is nothing but flashing ads. And I've got to sift through all the stuff. And then as the advertiser, you're now not getting your ad seen. And it's slowing down, like exactly what you're saying, the performance of the website itself or the internet.
And I think that the reason that's become a much more visceral experience for us as users online is because in the past, when you walk past a billboard on the underground in London, let's say, that's not your space, that you're in someone else's place, right? But when it's your phone, it's something that you speak to your parents on, you speak to your significant other, you get the best news, the worst news. It's a very, very intimate device. To then have this alien message that's on a device that you do everything on is jarring. And I think that has really ushered in a lot of the ad blockers, which have just compounded the issue for everyone involved, right? Because publishers then have been hamstrung for revenue. So it's made the issue worse. They've created a rod for their back and hit themselves with it essentially. So
yeah, I think there's also something to be said for like the user has never really been part of the value exchange in the same way, because there's not been money behind it. So one thing that we all know about kind of decentralization and the sort of way that it works is it incentivizes people with rewards, and users so far have just been rewarded with content, but when that content, like you said, is not the thing that you're looking at ads instead because they're everywhere all over the page, then it stops being the same experience. And one thing that we'll be able to do as well is build into the network to incentivize publishers to show less ads as well, right? So by giving people, an incentive by rewarding them with lower fees, for example, we can incentivize them to show no more than 3 ads on a page. And that would instantly clear up that problem, where you're seeing 15, 20 different adverts of varying different types on a page, where it becomes not about looking at the article, it becomes about someone trying to show you an advert to make money, right? And if we can sort of reinforce good behavior by our network structure, then we'll be making it a better experience for the user. And that's something that just hasn't happened previously.
Right. So it sounds like you're improving, user experience directly and indirectly in multiple ways, specifically just by allowing, a better fee on the exchange itself, clears up some money for some of these advertisers. Now that they're saving money, they're not losing that 10% also. So now they don't have to increase their frequency of ads in order to get maybe the conversions that they're trying to get or the money that they're trying to get from their ads. So I think that's really incredible. And It's kind of like, I think, Ben, you said it's like this laundry list of benefits, and the benefits of doing something like running on the Alchemy exchange, but it's so massive, and credit to Mr. Diggles here, that it is the greatest leak of data ever. And people like me, I've never thought of this, how much I'm just giving my data away at all times, when I could be more honest about my data, monetize my own data, and feel better about it. Because the internet is becoming a little strange place, and people are becoming more aware of their data and their privacy concerns surrounding what they're putting on the internet.
Yeah, and I think like you can see that because there's a lot of anonymous accounts on Twitter, right? There's people are starting to figure out how valuable their data is, and it's we I think I tweeted this on Saturday, but there's this quite nice juxtaposition that if ads have been responsible for the internet experience declining slightly, it's now, well, we can save the internet with ads. There's just a $ in front of the ads this time because it's a token that we're offering to people, right? So it's, you save the internet with ads, which, like, for me as a marketer, I love, because it's got something a little bit catchy about it. But I think, yeah, that's really what that's what we're offering, right? You can improve the greatest invention ever, well, one of the greatest inventions ever, by just using it again. Just don't do anything, just hold a token, stake the token, continue on your business as you did anyway, right. And you're now part of the problem, not the solution. Other way around, part of the solution, not the problem.
Right. And I think for most people too, especially, there is a little bit of a adoption problem in the cryptocurrency world. And I almost would prefer to say digital asset world sometimes, when it's appropriate. But there's a onboarding problem in terms of, like, my grandma, I'd have to go sit her down and maybe set her up in an account for her. And then if I were to just, hey, you just buy these and you hold them and you don't have to do anything. You stake them and it's over. You don't have to think about it again. And you're, by proxy, improving the internet. It's a super simple solution. And let's face it, everyone's busy these days. They've got stuff to do. They don't want to have to think about, I have another thing I have to do, another job I have to do. But just by holding these tokens, you're getting an incredible outcome, not just for yourself, but the internet, which I think we can all agree needs to make improvements.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even so, a lot of the way that these ads are traded right now, the only way is through third-party JavaScripts. So they provide a lot of the functionality that you'll see. And third-party JavaScripts aren't bad. They're not all bad. There's some that you can share fonts, you can share style sheets, like a website looks great because of third-party JavaScripts. But most, I think it's 50% of third-party JavaScript execution time is down to pretty much ad execution, right? And of that time, the top 100 URLs account for most of it. And so if they're able to reduce the amount of third-party JavaScript execution time, it will improve the internet for everyone by 2 to 3%. And what we're able to do is, because of the hypergraph transfer protocol is a much, much thicker protocol than we've ever seen before. If you compare it to the internet protocol, which is amazing, but it's just database to database connection. We're able to build in a lot of the functionality of third parties into the actual network protocol itself, essentially having the effect of removing JavaScript on pages, improving your page load time, improving the experience for the internet for everyone. It's when you start to have a page load quicker, people spend more time because more content appears more quickly, right? It's why in your Instagram feed, there's always something that pops back up to keep you in infinity scroll, right? And it's that's being slowed down because the technology, it's much easier in your own garden to change how the flowers look, right? It's much more difficult when that's shared by everyone around the world, which is what the internet is. So essentially we're giving people that use the internet the tools to create operational parity, product parity, user experience parity to what has existed on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which has been great. It's why they're so popular. It's why they're so ubiquitous. It's because they nailed it. And it's like publishers have now been chasing their tails, advertisers are trying to catch up, and now we're giving the chance to kind of take some of that power back. And then the kicker is the user's now involved. Which then the forgotten person in the room, right, kind of sat at the bar on their own, paying for everyone's drinks basically without getting rewarded. I've gone down into another if there are any Office fans, I quite often get very David Brent with my analogy, so I apologize, but it's a gift my father gave me, sadly. Shout out on these calls nonstop.
Yeah. So with all that being said, what has the response been like when you've come to a publisher or a major advertising platform and you've told them about Alchemy and all these different things we've discussed so far? Are they just like drooling over it? Like, what has that been? What has that process been like?
Yeah, pretty much that. We're turning up to meetings with napkins now just to stop people embarrassing themselves because of the drool that's falling out, right? So
yeah, just
I mean, we had a call with a chief product officer of like a regional newspaper, and one of the big money makers for Facebook and Google is small and medium businesses, because of the locality and the size of audiences in small regions. And what we spoke to him at length about was the idea of creating a product that they could use to serve small and medium businesses with a local newspaper that they pick up every day and visit when they get home on the website, right? So it's that's huge for them. They're never a publisher that's going to have this enormous scale of a global magazine and kind of win the cost per thousand game where they have thousands and millions, billions of impressions. They just scoop up money, but actually they'll be able to offer very targeted products at a higher cost to local businesses who, because of the pandemic, have needed help more than ever. And you kind of bring back this idea of community and take it away from it being an audience. Like everyone talks about audience targeting, or how do I access this audience? How do I get this group of people? And it's like, you're thinking about it the wrong way. You think about it more as a community of individuals. And I think that's something I've learned from getting involved in the blockchain space, in the crypto space on Twitter, is that it's not an audience, it's a community. People speak to each other, you ask questions, you field questions from your community. You do things like this, right? Where ultimately you're from the community and we're talking to you about it because you can challenge us, we can explain it to you. We get a much more compelling product off the back of it. I mean, my education was in product design, and that was always like, what does this mean for the user? So what does this mean for the user? Like, don't reinvent the mousetrap. Let's figure out a problem that someone has and then create a solution for it, and then ask them if we solved the problem. If we haven't, we change it. So we are true believers in that. We're going to build a community of users. We're going to build a community of advertisers, publishers, all ads token holders that can then create this much nicer, more efficient, pleasant way to access content. Because I'd argue that I think the media get a very, very hard time in the press, and in some instances rightly so. But I think what's happened is Facebook and Google came on and co-opted their content, co-opted all their eyeballs, and then sold the shit out of it and did it better than publishers had done. So publishers had to follow their audiences as they went onto a platform. No, if you say something bad on Facebook, nothing really happens, right? We always joke, there's the flat earthers I don't think would exist. If you went to the pub and I said, look, Neil, Charlie, Eric, the earth's flat, you'd be like, shut up, mate, how many beers have you had already? But it's like when you go into these Facebook groups, they give you the tin foil so you can make your hat.
Right.
Like an experiment that you can go do, which then falls apart on a Netflix documentary. It's like, okay, there needs to be some checks and balances that publishers are beholden to. It's called the law, right? There's regulations around what you can and can't say. You will get sued. You will get taken to court if you lie obtusely in a newspaper. I think rags or tabloids have had their fun, but I think not so much as they have on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. I mean, there was a Europa League final, so we're all big football fans at Alchemy, and Manchester United lost to Villarreal, and Marcus Rashford, a footballer, ended up getting sent a load of awful messages, racist messages through Facebook and Instagram. It's like, well, how can this happen? Like, why is this allowed to happen? This is wrong.
Yeah.
Because there are no checks and balances, which publishers are beholden to in the way these platforms aren't.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think, and you said, you nailed it, where even with when we speak about an audience or a community, there are definite differences in just kind of the way you view those. an audience, I think of an audience, you go to a show and an audience can be so many different people, so many different demographics and ages and backgrounds and everything. But when you create a community of people and you're able to optimize your ads and target, better and optimize to specific communities because you're getting better data, what's that worth to someone like a advertiser or a publisher? It's technically worth everything. If they can save money and maximize profits, then what's that worth?
Yeah, I mean, it keeps their businesses open, frankly.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly.
and millions of people around the world. It's like it's
Yeah.
a huge industry.
Yeah. Love to hear you guys are big football fans. My sister was at one point the executive assistant to the commissioner of the MLS.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
we're a big, my whole family's a big football family. Yeah.
So that Charlie and I support Arsenal. And
Arsenal.
Neil's a Liverpool fan.
I would probably go the Arsenal route. Me personally, I don't plant my flag anywhere. Most in most sports, I don't really plant my flag anywhere. But sorry, Charlie.
No, Neil lives in North London. Loves North London.
Oh, okay.
I live closer. I live closer to the Emirates than anyone else here.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan. I've never had any choice. My dad's from Liverpool. My parents live in Liverpool, and we have 4 season tickets there. So I didn't have a choice.
No, you don't have a choice there, and you definitely don't want to be the outcast amongst that fan base either, I would imagine.
But it just, it's kind of beneficial at the moment where we're actually half decent and playing Champions League football.
All right. Are we about to start throwing some shots here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
Shots fired.
That was one. We have it words.
All right. So kind of getting back on track here. Someone asked, what is the onboarding process for how a publisher would maybe sign up and work with your team at Alchemy?
I mean, it's a really good question, actually. So in terms of the onboarding of publishers and advertisers, the number one thing, and we touched on it earlier, is the fact that we've designed everything we're doing to be interoperable with existing standards, and that's hugely important because we've been around the block a bit. We're not naive enough to think that we can reinvent things and then get advertisers and publishers to buy into this. Like I've always likened my time at agency side to being kind of captain of the Titanic and seeing the iceberg coming and like leaning really hard on the rudder, trying to steer it. And, it's like turning 1 or 2 degrees. But there are existing standards that are required to trade digital advertising, things like OpenRTB, things like Prebid.org. These already exist, and the beauty of the L0 kind of standard means that we can then essentially bolt those on to the tools and technologies that are already already used by publishers and advertisers. So in terms of onboarding, we can go to a media agency or an advertiser and say, what's your preferred demand side platform? Oh, you work with the trade desk. Okay, well, this is your trade desk seat. This is how you create a PM private marketplace with our exchange, or whether you bid kind of programmatic guaranteed or whatever it is on the exchange. That's already done through pre-existing pipes. And on the other side, we can go to we can plug into existing standards that are used by publishers. But in addition to that, and I'll let Ben speak about this, Ben draws upon significant experience in selling these solutions into the publisher side, and we'll very much be taking a white glove approach towards big publishers and talking to them and letting them understand how they'll be working with us.
Right. Yeah, it's really going to be just again, because everything you said now, an education process. Between us, we know most of the people that we need to be speaking to get this thing on the right people's radars, and that's it. Because buy through your favorite buying platform or sell through your favorite selling platform, but just use the Alchemy Exchange endpoint. It's as simple as that. And then it comes down to, how does the ads token relate to that? So you have again, as Charlie mentioned, we have these two pools, the access and the bandwidth pool. But then for publishers or agencies or advertisers, they will be a commercial entity, which is another one of the pools in the tokenomics that we put together. And that is that you would hold the required number of ads token to deliver the ads that you need, because the ads token is kind of like the vehicle that moves it around the exchange, right?
So it's the resource for the
exactly, yeah. And all the publisher will see is the fees they have for trading, right? So that's 1.5% for sellers, it's 1.5% for buyers. They will accrue fees, and then if they've behaved and they've traded using the agreed upon standards that the market will put together, you can use those accrued rewards to reduce your fees. And it's a case of there will be a definite learning curve for these publishers and advertisers, but and that's where our art comes in, is that we will tell them that they can see everything if they want to, because it's the nature of the blockchain, right? Everything's transparent, but they won't necessarily need to see everything all at the same time. We'll kind of slowly, softly take them away from the previous centralized ways of trading by looking like a centralized exchange, by feeling like a centralized exchange, but offering functionality you can only see from something that's been decentralized in the way that we're going to do it. And then the ads token becomes that perfect vehicle. So it's not just, as we've said, publishers and advertisers that can do this, but anyone that holds an ads token gets to become part of this intended value exchange and really does get rewarded for helping the internet become a better place. It's a real nice, succinct solution, I think, to what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very happy solution.
Yeah,
a very feel good kind of, I don't know if any of you are Star Wars fans, but it's kind of like, the return, coming back from the dark side a little bit. So it's quite easy.
Say we're Jedis, because I definitely run with that.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Definitely. You heard it here first, folks. Alchemy's Jedis. So it's quite easy, and the only real, quote unquote, and I hate to even use the word, but maybe sacrifice for someone coming would just be a very small little bit of a learning curve to kind of get used to the system and how it works. And then it's saving money, saving the internet.
And then not just that, there's, because of the hypergraph's ability to handle data and to make data interoperable, there's lots of siloed functions within a publisher. So like your content management system or your CMS will sit separately to your ad server. And what we can do is have those data sets speak to each other. So again, if we picture a world where you have a decentralized ID solution that's sharing your preferences with chosen websites, you can have not just a targeted advert now, but your entire content feed can be targeted to you as an individual and what you like to read, what you don't like to read, which kind of sectors you're interested in, which sports team you're interested in, it coupled with an ad itself. And it's like, okay, well, that's very, very familiar in terms of what you see on Instagram, right? And that's an addictive experience. People love doing that because they get more and more of what they want, particularly TikTok, because even that's the craziest algorithm that's ever been invented, right? It knows you better than you know yourself when you open the app. So this is bizarre, but c'est la vie. Yeah. So ushering in, again, these products that have parity to what exists at the moment in the closed wall gardens, and like, okay, once you found your feet, once you're established, you understand what it means to be an ads token holder, you understand the ecosystem you're in now, you understand the community you're dealing with, you can build stuff on top of that, right? Then you could, if you see all the data, you could build algorithms that traded the Alchemy exchange for particular KPIs or key performance indicators for an advertiser, which might just be brand awareness or conversions or driving feet to stores or product recall, you name it, right? You can then realize on this premise of programmatic advertising, which was what digital advertising is called and the way it's traded, what that was really trying to do. So you have traders and analysts rather than BDs and account managers, and kind of usher in this new skill set with more revenue that can now then train these individuals to do that and have a different kind of person that works at a publisher and a different skill set and better creatives, because there's just all more of this resource that's come back in by solving a lot of the issues from this centralized system that exists at the moment.
Right, absolutely. So this is obviously what I love is, even in the beginning stages of this project, just to see where this can go and the vision that you have all created is really remarkable in terms of where it can end up. And by getting involved now, right, what that could do for an ads token holder down the road. With that in mind, I'm interested in ads. I want to get some ads tokens. How does someone like me get their hands on an ads token? What's that going to look like? Is that available right now? So how do I get my hands on some ads tokens?
So we have a form which we've been circulating in the groups, and we have started to reach out to those that put their name down on the form. But today, if you wanted to get involved and kind of have your name down the list to be an ads token holder, that's your best route. That's in any of our admins will point you in the direction of that form. But yeah, put your details on there. We are making our way through the list. It's quite long now, so let's take up a lot of our day, but that's the list. And then we are moving towards a launch. That's kind of what we're heads down on at the moment, is figuring out the platforms where you're going to find access, where you would access when we'd be able to get your hands on the ads token. And it's, yeah, sooner than you think it's going to be kind of widely available. But yeah, it's like what we are up all day and night on kind of breaking the back of at the moment is where exactly it's going to be available. So for now, I appreciate best answer, but for now it's the form. But then please stay tuned to the Telegram channels, the Twitter channels, the announcement channel in particular, and you'll be the first to know as and when it's available, where you can get your hands on some ads.
Awesome.
Yeah, one thing we do know for sure, sorry, is well, just because we're working with Constellation, that will be like one of the first projects launched on the Lattice launchpad as well. So that is going live on the 20th of June. So it will be sometime after that we're available via that. So that's definitely going to be one like definite route that we'll be taking. And yeah, as Ben said, like just keep an eye on the announcement channel and yeah, our Telegram channel as well, and all the information will be revealed over the next couple of weeks.
And by the way, that new Lattice website is clean.
Yeah,
it looks really good. Huge improvement from the last one. The last one wasn't bad, but this thing is just really clean. I'm super pumped for Lattice. So for the viewers listening, I will have those two links, the ALKIMI Telegram chat, the announcement channel, and the list information as well in the description. So if you're watching this video, in the link in below, link below.
Right here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right here.
There are the videos here.
On the whiteboard.
My flat's that way.
Yeah. So that information will all be in the description. Gentlemen, is there any last few key points here that you think we maybe missed out on that those interested in ALKIMI should know?
I think that my key takeaway, and I will continue to say this forever, is that we are going to save the internet with ads. I think if it goes well, I might get that tattooed one day. You know what I mean?
Me too. I mean, shit.
Light now. Like that's what we're trying to do. That's what the ads token is capable of delivering. And yeah, hold ads, get rewarded for using the internet.
Yeah, hodl ads, save the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just come and join our Telegram channel because obviously there's a lot of debate going on over there. Lots of all the news comes out and anything that we have to say about the project will be in there. So best way to sort of BYOR on that is to come and join us in the Telegram channel.
Perfect.
We're all in there. Well, if you ask us and if you add us more often than not, we'll get back to you because we look at it all the time.
Right. Yeah. No, listen, one thing that I love about you guys is you're very active in the community. I know you all have a lot going on. You're in the middle of doing a large launch to save the internet and you're very active in the community. And I think that speaks a lot about even the way you've structured the project, because you really don't just have the advertisers and the publishers in mind in creating ALKIMI, but you really also had the user experience in mind, which I think speaks a lot about your team and what you guys have created. So I just want to commend you on that and say very, very job well done.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Hey. Absolutely. So, gentlemen, I think that will be all from the Digital Dive podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, everyone listening. Like I said before, the information will be in the description below. And I hope you all have a great day.
And we'll have our suits next time.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
All right. Later, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right.